we are looking forward to the NNOA 50th Anniversary Symposium.
Save the date now, July 25th through 29th, 2022. Prepare to book early at the Westin Annapolis Hotel.
Book your hotel room, register early, sign up to speak, sign up to mentor, and be mentored. There is something for everyone.
Junior officers, be on the lookout for sponsorships through the Coast Guard, Navy, and the Marine Corps and our other sea services.
We are building tomorrow's leaders today. We are stronger together.
Good afternoon and welcome to NNOA's virtual brown bag. My name is Myrick McAdams. I'm a retired Navy captain and I am the chair of the Career Development Committee. Now, this is about brown bag. I have a smoothie today, so hopefully you have your lunch and you know what we're going to do. So let's get started. The NNOA mission is to enhance sea service operational readiness by supporting recruiting, professional development, and retention. This section is our professional development. We want to do this in order to achieve a diverse officer corps that reflects the demographics of our nation. Now, to our audience, if you have a question, please place it in the chat. And our facilitator, myself, and Captain Blassingame, our past executive vice president, will help our facilitator get the questions to our panel members. Our facilitator today is Lieutenant Commander DeCrisha Nolan, United States Navy. She is a prior surface warfare officer who has transitioned into the human resources community. She is currently a student at the Naval Postgraduate School studying manpower systems analysis. We have junior officers with us today from the Coast Guard, the Marine Corps, and from the Navy, of course. So without any other comments from me, I will turn it over to Commander Nolan. Take it away, Commander Nolan.
Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're at. But thank you, Captain McAdams. I am pleased to facilitate today's discussion with these superb junior officers. Today, we have the following members of the NNOA junior panel joining us: Lieutenant JG Cody Mitchell, United States Coast Guard, Chair of the NNOA JO panel; Lieutenant Tyree Harris, Supply Corps Officer in the Navy; and Captain Carlin Myrick, Artillery Officer in the Marine Corps. Our topic today is advocacy of joining an affinity group like NNOA and the reasons why being an active member of professional associations like Black engineers or other organizations are important to career development. Before we begin, I would like to welcome Lieutenant JG Cody Mitchell, our NNOA Junior Panel Chair.
Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, if there are any questions that you have during the discussion today, please post them in the chat and we will make sure we get those answered. As well as if you have any questions regarding the JO advisory panel or are interested in joining, please email jopanel@nnoa.org, which is listed below, and we will make sure we get in contact with you shortly. Thank you again.
Okay, panelists, before we begin, as a reminder, please introduce yourself before you start and provide your comments. And to our audience, please place questions in the chat. So we're going to start off with Captain Carlin Myrick, a prior enlisted, currently artillery officer in the Marine Corps. How have you been involved in affinity groups and professional associations?
Can everybody hear me? Want to make sure. All right. So I am a artillery officer within the United States Marine Corps, currently stationed at Marine Barracks, Washington, 8th and 9, here in Washington, D.C. So in terms of affinity groups like NNOA, have been a complete and huge help to my career. I got involved back in 2018 at the national conference. And since then, certain commanders and certain colonels have definitely pulled me aside, definitely gave me advice, definitely gave me just a little bit of career navigation. And it's been a big help to my career over the past 4 years. With the actual symposium, when I went to, Colonel Everly, who was a part of the NNOA, pulled me aside, and he's been my mentor ever since. And I could say that having him as a mentor, along with other senior officers, have definitely helped me navigate the Marine Corps, have definitely helped me perform better throughout my career.
Okay. Next, I'm going to pose this to Lieutenant Tyree Harris, Supply Officer. Tell us about your affiliation with affinity groups and professional associations.
Yep. Thank you, Commander Nolan. So as she said, I'm Lieutenant Tyree Harris, born and raised in Flint, Michigan. I've been in the Navy for the last 10 years as Supply Corps officer, and I have been across multiple platforms, whether that's submarines, air, or just surface ships. But I joined the NNOA about that 2018. I got invited to a chapter meeting in DC. Captain Troy, Jerome, those retired supply officers up there, they invited me up and said, hey, this is an organization you should be part of. I had no mentors at the time, but Captain Troy and other captains and now Rear Admiral Bresnahan, they took me on their wings. And then they just said, hey, as a supply officer, you got to get to know people, right? It's not what you know, it's who you know. Supply Corps is a diverse organization. So actually the orders I got out of DC was because I knew some supply officers through the NNOA. In addition to that, I got involved into the Supply Corps Foundation. I'm currently an active member here in the Tidewater area, as well as just getting involved with my junior officers on the USS Wasp, where I'm currently stationed, and getting them involved in the NNOA. In addition to that, the symposium, as Capt. Myrick talked about, it's the one area where you're going to come across multiple flag officers, multiple senior officers, your peers. You're going to be in an environment where you can ask questions in a place where you don't have to be embarrassed. And that's one thing I remember about the 2018 symposium that we had back in San Diego. Actually, 2019 symposium in San Diego. But if you're thinking about coming to symposium here, the 50th annual one, it's going to be a blast here in DC. That's all I have.
All right, we're going to go ahead and go to Lieutenant JG Cody Mitchell next. United States Coast Guard. Tell us about yourself and how did you get involved with affinity groups?
Good afternoon. Lieutenant Junior Grade Cody Mitchell from Pennsylvania, and currently serve as the commanding officer of Coast Guard Cutter Beluga, home ported in Sandy Hook, New Jersey. The way I was able to get in touch and in tune with NNOA specifically was when I was graduating OCS. One of my platoon officers told me about this great organization and that I should check it out and hear from our senior leaders and other fellow JOs to build that network and that connection. So I looked at it and found the JO panel, advisory panel, as a part of that. And really excited and pleased for the great work that the JO advisory panel does of advising the board of directors on different events such as this and functions that JOs can help support, and how the organization can in return support the JOs and the future of the organization and our CSER. Some of the other professional organizations and affinity groups that I'm a part of, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, Virginia State University Alumni Association, and a few others. And all these organizations, the way that I was able to get in touch and expand my leadership knowledge and really exercise everything that I'm learning is through mentors. So definitely mentorship was the base for it, and just been expanding since then. And each organization has provided me unique opportunities that I've been able to cross-reference throughout, and in return make me a better leader and help my fellow peers lead in their situations as well. So thank you.
All right, Lieutenant Commander Casey Colton, throw you in the mix. Your strategic sea lift officer, Navy, We want to know a little bit about yourself and what has been your affiliation when it comes to affinity groups.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. So I have a little dynamic mix in my career as a Merchant Marine Academy graduate. I actually sailed as a mariner for about 7 years. Then I joined Military SEALF Command and started activating on my reserve commission. So I've been active for the past 5 years on and off orders. And my affiliation started with the Navy League back in 2001. I've been involved with them since I was 16 or so. And through that, I met Rear Admiral Harris, kind of drafted me into the NNOA, among other organizations that I've been a part of. So I think the biggest thing, a lot of people labeled that you get to meet people and it's who you know, additionally to working hard and, getting there on your own. When it comes to the fine line of making a break into getting a, high profile job or position, it really does help to know people because they can vouch for you personally. And being in these organizations helps with that. Top of some of your character, development and professional development. There's a lot to learn, from your peers and from leadership, vertically and horizontally. And you get that by engaging in these organizations and these affiliations. So I've had a lot of good mix and I've enjoyed the little bit I've been with NNOA. I'd like to get a little more involved as I can, but so alumni chapters, Navy League of the United States, which does all 4 services now, and all the active duty can actually join. So look into that. I'm in National Defense Transportation Association since I'm a mariner, and so on and so forth. So that's really helped me. It actually helped partly get me to the job I'm in now, working for the Admiral of MSC. So all that's really encompass itself to get me to where I'm at, and I know it's going to help me further on. So appreciate the time and good luck to everybody listening in. Over.
All right, so Lieutenant Commander Colton and Lieutenant Mitchell kind of already hit on this, but what other organizations are you all involved in? How have they served you? But more importantly, how have they not served you? Are there any organizations, you don't have to name them, or anything that you affiliated yourself with that you felt didn't do much for you? Or was there something that did the most for you? Let's go ahead and start with Captain Myrick on this.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm a part of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the best fraternity, if I want to put that out there. I'll let somebody else debate that, Cody. As well as U.S. Field Artillery Association, as well as the Marine Corps Gazette, Marine Corps Association as well. But those professional organizations, I feel like you, in terms of affinity groups as well as professional development, has to be balanced out. You can't be in too many affinity groups and then not balance out your career, your profession within those professional development organizations. I will say that how they serve me is definitely offer a different perspective. From a Alpha Phi Alpha perspective, you have military members, but you also have corporate leaders that think a little bit different than you in terms of what you do in the military. They can offer you a different perspective of how you want to lead, how you want to pretty much organize, and it's been a help on that end. In terms of the professional organizations, that's the bread and butter in terms of a technical question of what we do in the military. So that has definitely helped me out a lot. Where it can probably help, I would say across every spectrum of affinity group, to include like NNOA, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and U.S. Field Artillery Association, is I think we do a very good job in terms of pulling up from the college perspective. It's like, hey, you want to be a second lieutenant or you want to be an ensign, like we need to pull you up here and we need to progress you from there. I think after that, the gap between 01 and 03 is probably where the most development needs to happen, but it's a very hard time for those senior leaders to kind of grab everybody. And we get that. We understand that there's plenty of people who want advice, who want mentorship, and sometimes time is just limited. But I feel like we could probably do a better job in terms of making sure, like, once they get into the organization, we're grabbing them immediately once they become a 01 and pulling them up a little bit higher and kind of getting them before they become a field grade officer.
Okay, I like that. Lieutenant Harris, now to you. What are your thoughts?
Well, I only belong to 2 affinity groups. Both have been momentous help in my career so far. That's NNOA, along with the Supply Corps Foundation. Only thing I would say differently is what I would have maybe joined earlier. Like Capt Myrick was talking about, that progression between 01 and 03. That's where you need to have the most influence from senior officers guiding you and getting you to a place to mentally be able to put on that rank of 04, 05, and 06. Whereas for my career, I went to submarines right away, and I was there for 4 years. Submarine tour is usually 2.5 years, 3 years. But due to people getting let go or DFC'd, my year group got extended. With that being said, being on submarines, you're not connected to the outside world. So when I left that tour, I had very little mentors because I joined the Navy as an ensign, of course, and then to go to submarines right away, you're there for 4 years. You're the only supply officer on that ship. You don't have those other supply officers, those senior officers that are guiding you at that point. So knowing what I know now, I did do a tough visible tour, which is submarines, but for supply corps officer, by the end of the day, maybe if I had talked to the NNOA or to the Supply Corps Foundation a lot sooner in my career, it would have assisted me to have gotten a different set of orders or things of that nature, or it would have helped me out in that tour alone. Right? Did pretty well in that tour. Like I said, almost won the Supply Officer of the Year award. I won it for the East Coast, lost out to the West Coast guy. But at the end of the day, those 2 affinity groups have been very impactful in my career. And I would say, don't just have 1,000 affinity groups, just like Captain Myrick was talking about. It's about quality over quantity. So at the end of the day, you just got to pick your affinity groups to, how you want to grow as an officer, but don't be too involved in too many other ones. But NNOA, beneath Supply Corps Foundation, those 2 are no-brainers. So that's all I have to say about that. Over.
Lieutenant Mitchell.
For the organizations that I'm a part of, they all want to serve the younger members of the organization as well as the community. So I know getting involved early in my career, that has definitely allowed me to stand out and allow more time to understand the organizations and offer more time for participation. But with these affinity groups and professional organizations, as times are changing and with technology and policy and all that it's they're looking for JO input, and they're looking for out of the box thinkers. So highly suggest getting involved this sooner rather than later. I was actually speaking with a senior officer not too long ago, and he highly recommends getting involved sooner, and he wished in his career that he would have done that. And just keep on providing that valuable feedback that you have, because junior officers do offer a unique perspective, and that knowledge and wisdom that you have for the few years that you may have been in a position or a previous tour that you can pass on to second lieutenant, ensign, so on and so forth. That'll just continue to build the organizations and build that network that you have. So definitely mimic what the other panel members said. They definitely hit it right on the head, and just get involved early and speak up and offer that valuable feedback that you have, because people are standing by waiting to hear from it.
All right, this is Commander Colton. I know your time is limited, but I want to get your feedback as much as I can get out. So we're going to switch up the question to now. How can organizations capture the attention and commitment of the newest generation of junior officers?
Again, to touch base on the last one, I just want to say, hey, everybody look at the ROI and what you're getting out of these organizations, and I'll get to the next question. But you have to look at the mission of the service you're in and your own personal mission. Where they overlap is the opportunity. Okay, so getting FaceTime with the leadership and the mission of the organization is great, but you have to look out for yourself and structure your goals around that. Okay, and next question: how do we capture the youth or new members and so on and so forth? That's it's a challenging question for all organizations, military, nonprofit. Everybody's trying to figure that out. And I did some studies with the Navy League because they're trying to do the same. A lot of this goes down to what are people going to get out of it. I hate to say that because it is selfish, but it's true. Social media is a good outreach, but how do we deliver that message to people who don't know and don't necessarily get a financial gain out of this? I think messaging is the biggest part, and nowadays social media is a big messaging platform. So allowing people to put on their resume things like young executive, words that translate into the corporate world is a big deal, because not everybody's going to stay 20 years in the military. So you want to be able to translate the military piece to a way for them to win out of this. Essentially, that's my perspective, and it's not necessarily the one that I wish I knew, but it's the one I know that people are kind of leaning towards. So I appreciate allowing me to come on here, and I look forward to working with everybody more. And I got to go. We have KLE a little later, but wish everybody the best. And if you have any questions or want to reach out to mid-grade like myself or the other commander here, please do. My information's with Cody. So out.
We appreciate it. So that is a great lead in to the next question. I'm kind of tie that into the previous question as well. So is there a difference in perception between the senior 05 and above, don't include low fours, we're just the middleman, senior, and then the more junior ranks when it comes to affinity groups, associations? Is there a difference, especially in social media? And how does this difference kind of come into play? As he already mentioned, like especially trying to reel in junior officers and kind of tailoring the conversation of, what is it for me? Is there a difference between the two? Let's go ahead and start off with Captain Myrick.
So, ma'am, I think there is a difference between the senior officers and then the junior officers, and depending on where you come from, because that time gap could range from if they came straight out of college, if they were prior enlisted, that age range, you can get a very, very large age range from literally 21 all the way up to maybe 35, depending on the junior officer. So that generation gap that Lieutenant Commander Colton was talking about, I think it's huge. And I think that, as he said, the motivation is a little bit different. And it's a little hard when you have your friend or whoever making $300,000 off of TikTok videos, and you're saying here, like, I'm getting up at 06 doing what? Like, this doesn't relate. This isn't the same as it was 20 years ago when we're going into Iraq and Afghanistan. So the motivation is definitely different. I think now a lot of the junior officers, in order to be retained, and as well as the ones that come into the organization, need to see somebody they want to emulate. And I think that's probably what we're missing in the gap. They need to see somebody be like, I want to be like that guy. I want to be like that girl. I'm going to follow exactly what they did. And that's really the simple solution to it. The question is, how are we engaging the rest of the population? Are we shutting out when they have a curious question? If they hit you up and they call you for advice and you wait 2 weeks in order to get a response back, that engagement level is now a gap. It's like, okay, well, they don't really care. And it's not true, because I know senior officers are very busy, but it's kind of like senior officers have to end up being very intentional. Like, I'm very intentional in terms of like the midshipmen and the candidates that I have now. I'll call them randomly. Like, what are you doing? Like, It has nothing to do with like the career progression, but it's really building that relationship in order to progress further. So they know like, hey, I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, like give me a call if you get in trouble. But we kind of got to break down that barrier in order to kind of progress the junior officers and senior officers to kind of mend a little bit better.
I like that. Being intentional. I'm going to have to capture that and take that to my toolbox for later. Lieutenant Harris, what are your thoughts?
What I would add to that is ownership. And a lot of people think that as senior officers, they give a lot of ownership. But I was on submarine for 4 years, so I got to see about 5 different commanding officers. And if anybody knows about the submarine force, the nuclear officer pipeline is robust because they lose about 2/3 of the officers that they bring in before they be put on department head tours. But I had one particular captain that somehow, some way, and when he explained it to me, I figured it all out. But he had about 90% retention rate for his junior officers, and the way he led was different. Not only did people want to be like him, but he also empowered people to think for themselves. So I think a lot of times what we have with senior officers is that they're not allowing you to come up with your solution on your own, right? Because oftentimes it's a time crunch. There's something that they need to figure out very, very quickly. So at the end of the day, they just pick the fastest, most efficient means to get it done. And that's giving you a direct order, right? I know we're in the military, that's great. But when there's a time for an officer to put in his 2 to 5 cents or 2 cents, you want to say, that officer has the opportunity to now have ownership of that decision-making process. And when that, in this generation, for this generation in particular, that TikToker that made $300,000 for a 6-minute video or 30-second video, that was their own little creativity in there, right? So this generation, like my younger brother's generation, they love the ability to put their own spin on things. And I think sometimes when you join the military, especially when you're junior, that is taken away from you. There's a beat somebody down, build them back up process. That's well endowed. But when you take that individuality away from somebody, that creativity, this generation doesn't know how to handle that, right? So then they seek that outside of the military or outside for a different affinity group. The one thing that NNOA does is they ask the JO panel and junior officers, how can we be better, right? What are your thoughts? They value our opinions. And that commanding officer that had a 90% retention rate, which is unheard of for some mariners, he always asks the question, what do you think, right? Why do you think that way? Okay, what can we do better? Things of that nature. He invite them into the process, and that allowed those officers to feel empowered and to lead their divisions or departments. So that's one thing I learned from the 5 different commanding officers I had at one command. So he was absolutely the best, not to say any names. Out. Over.
Oh, we can say names. Okay. It's okay. I'm just like, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. Good names. Only names when something good. Lieutenant Mitchell, what are your thoughts?
Can you just re-ask the question one more time for me, please?
Just want to hit on, is there a difference between the junior officers, the senior officers, the perception when it comes to affinity groups, or just, what the generation gap period, does it even exist? And where does those differences exist at? And kind of how does it change or impact mainly the junior officer community?
Yes, from the few organizations that I'm a part of, it's really that leadership of where does the organization want to go from here on out. I think with NNOA reaching the 50th year and celebrating at the 50th symposium, NNOA has been doing a great job of trying to bridge that gap and ask junior officers of what's the next 50 years going to look like for this organization. And they know that we're going to be taking the reins eventually and leading this organization. So they want to see where we are at and offer that wisdom and knowledge, but also interested to see where we want to take it and see that perspective. And that's with all the different organizations, affinity groups, is, where has the organization been and where senior officers and senior leaders see it, and making sure asking those right questions of where do we go here. I think there is a gap, but I think as more and more time passes, that we're doing a better job in bridging that gap.
Now we have a question that came in, and I think this is going to be a perfect tie into something else that was mentioned. Why do officers in the C services not know about NNOA? Kind of tying this into social media. Is it social media that we're falling short? Is it reliance on email? Do we need more in person? Why do C services not know, and kind of the communication realm, how can that be improved? I'm going to continue with the same order. Captain Myrick, starting with you.
Yes, ma'am. So I think C services definitely know about it in a way. There's definitely senior leaders who have gave contributions to both their organization as well as NNOA. I think in terms of a mass, in terms of officers in general knowing about NNOA, I think it has to kind of align with the service and the service head. So they have to be able to present that to their pretty much their officers as a professional development organization, and knowing that they can get something out of that. Now that changes. Your battalion commander might not want you to get advice from anybody else outside of him or her. So that's a different conversation of, okay, well, you're getting advice from a colonel. I'm a lieutenant colonel, which means he probably knows me. I don't like that. So it's like, they're like, wait a minute, you're jumping ahead in terms of the chain of command by trying to seek his advice from somebody else. And I think like getting those battalion commanders involved, getting those regimental commanders involved, and as well as those department heads and those commanders of ships and XOs, you got to get them involved and let them see like, oh, I can get value out of this as well from being mentored by flag officers as well. So I think you kind of got to draw the relationship of that RS or RO or whoever's evaluating your or doing your evaluations have to get something out of it in order to pass that down to the junior officers to make sure everybody wins for the most part.
Just to follow up with that, now to how does that get communicated? Now we say perfect leadership, they know about it, they want to share the message. How do they share the message? What works best?
I think in person. I think we're losing. I think email and social media is a great tool in order to spread the word, but there's nothing that beats in-person interaction. I think we definitely saw that when COVID happened. There's nothing that beats personal interaction, that you can feel the sincerity of somebody saying like, no, I really need you to come to this event because you're going to get so much out of it. And if you don't, like, let me know and let's talk about what was the reason why you didn't get something out of this organization, this event, or whatever. So we kind of just got to beat the street, like really get on the feet and go into different commands and go into different bases. And if I can get 6 officers together in the middle of the day, just sitting outside, and like people are going to go by and be like, what are they doing? And then that's how you kind of pull them in. That shows intention that we were kind of talking about earlier versus just an email and social media, which is like the follow-up afterwards. At least that's my 2 cents, man.
Now, Lieutenant Harris, same to you. Why do C services not know? Do they really know? And how can the message be delivered better?
Well, I just echo everything Captain Myrick talked about. But in regards to what we could do better, is just honestly, like he said, word of mouth. You got to get out there. You got to talk to people directly. People in my command, I've talked to directly. A lot of the junior officers that come in are ensigns or just Lieutenant JGs coming from another command. No one's ever talked to them about NNOA. So, hey, no matter who they are, what their background is, hey, this is NNOA. I'm a member. I'm a panel member. This is what the NNOA is about. Hey, we got a chapter meeting here in the Tidewater area at this time. Hey, here's a chapter president's number. Here's a chapter membership number, right? And getting that conversation, that dialogue going allows us to not open up a door where we can follow back up with social media. Here's a social media account. Here's this, here's that. I mean, you got to do it word of mouth, get down to the grassroots of things and just start beating the street. That's what you have to do to get members involved in NNOA.
Now, Lieutenant Mitchell, you're in the Coast Guard, so the numbers is a little different for you, but same question. Is there a difference? Does the word get spread amongst the Coast Guard? If not, how can it be done better?
Thank you, ma'am. I think the Coast Guard does a really good job of spreading the word of NNOA. I hear that the hangouts at the symposium from the Coast Guard, they're usually a really great outing. So we do a good job, and I it's mostly through word of mouth and through chapter engagement that we create groups or teams, and we stay in touch throughout each symposium in the off season or within our chapters, and that we stay tuned and that we're making sure we're pushing out information on social media. But I think it's really that those stories of what have we taken away from NNOA and what's coming down the pipeline that may be good for junior officers to come in. But definitely, like what the other panel member said, it's that that communication initially by person to really get people to stay in tune with NNOA. There's a lot of people that have heard of it, and it's just more of keeping them engaged throughout the whole year.
All right, now we're going to switch it up completely. How do you get noticed at your commands? Do you even worry about it? I mean, yes, you're a part of, groups and associations. You all are amazing at your career, but what specifically have you done to get noticed at your career, get noticed at your commands? Captain Myrick?
Yes, ma'am. I think a cop-out answer is be myself, and it really doesn't explain anything. But I think, as we said earlier, I think the model of an officer, at least what I had envisioned in my head 20 years ago, is a little bit different of what I feel like now. And so I really try to draw the connection of you don't have to be one certain specific way as a military officer. And I really try to harp on that. I am an individual. Yes, the military is my career. Yes, I take my profession serious, but I'm also a person outside of this uniform. And you have to be able to draw those connections to my junior Marines as well, and then my senior leaders. And I let them know, like, if I don't agree with something, I think everybody has a moment where you disagree with a senior on a topic, but there's a way to go about it. And there's a tactful way to go about it in order to get your message across, but to also let them know, like, you're not okay with something. And I think that's probably what's missing from some of the officers that I've known, and they get so emotional because they're passionate about it, and that's good. But we gotta tailor this back a little bit to make sure you can get your message across, to make sure your commander or whoever is understanding where you're coming from. That's kind of just been my 2 cents of how I've moved throughout my unit, and I think it's gotten me noticed. I don't know. We'll see as the years go by.
So what I got out of it is start a fight, go against what they say, but be tactful when you do it. That's how you get noticed. That's
Fight everybody, man. Fight everybody.
Don't take that one. But Lieutenant Harris, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I hope that's working out, Captain Mark. Look like it is. You're doing a fantastic job so far in your career. But as being an individual for myself, as a supply officer, Captain Cooper, my current commanding officer, always says, SWOs, we cause problems, and supply officers are supposed to fix them. So I've always looked at where there's a problem that nobody else wants to fix, or they need some type of creative answer to that problem. I interject myself into that problem stream and try to solve it. And that's how I kind of stand out the command. It's like, hey, we've been having this issue. We've been living with it for the last, 5-6 years. Okay, no problem. Let me look at all the specs of it. All right, this is what I think we can do to fix it. And then we go about fixing it. And honestly, it's not myself doing it. It's getting a team behind me of people that are just actually smarter than myself, right? If you're the smartest person in the room, you're gonna fail one day, right? So I cultivate a team of people that around me that are actually smarter than me, more creative, and we just work to resolve the problem. And then I don't take the credit. I actually boost them up, and the command notices that. The command notices, hey, this isn't Lieutenant Harris taking the credit for solving a problem that we had for the last 10 years. This is his team taking credit that we solved the problem. And he's boasting up, he's writing awards for his junior sailors to get those things done. But that to me has always been the way to stand out. Is most people run from problems. And those who stand tall and say, okay, this is what we can do to solve it. And they may not like the answer, but this is going to solve the issue. the command recognizes that, and you make the command look good, and we move on our merry way. Also, I would say in addition to that, if you're responsible for one thing, but you want to get involved in something else, let's say for instance, like when I was on submarine, ORS exams. I had no business taking the ORS exam, but I said I'll take the ORS exam, right? It's the submarine officer exam, engineer exam, and I passed it. And the command was like, "Wow, you're really good at this nuclear stuff. You teach me to become a nuclear officer." And I said, "No, I don't want to do that. But there's other things you can do to outside your lane if you show that you are proficient or that you can handle a task or job that may be billeted for somebody else. That they notice you and say, we can use you in multiple areas when it comes to watch standing and things of that nature." Over.
So put it all together. Start friction, but be tactful. If it's broken, fix it, and bite more often I can chew and become a nuke. So that's how I'm wrapping that one up. Lieutenant Mitchell, so your Coast Guard numbers are small, so I always assume that there's nothing y'all can do but be noticed. But how do you in particular get noticed at your commands?
So for my unit, it's an 11-person crew. We're on an 87-foot patrol boat, and we have a big mission to do. So it has to be that team effort, that everyone is taking their time, taking the initiative, not only to teach up the chain of command, but down the chain of command, so everyone knows each other's job, and that we all have that common goal and that common picture and what that full impact is going to look like for that team effort. When we're able to do that and come together as a team and take that initiative, think outside the box, it allows the unit to really be noticed and to stick out. For some bigger commands, it's when I was an ensign, it was learning how to be a DWO, taking that little extra time out of my day to keep on studying and perfect that craft and just continue to build up on it, and know that once I obtain the base level of knowledge, that there's still plenty of room to grow and build up upon. So definitely that teamwork is key, taking that initiative, thinking outside the box, that if you fail, it's okay. Some of the best leaders that I've seen, they have failed and they build off of that and continue to grow upon that. So don't be afraid to take those risks and that kind of stuff. When it's within lines and within policy, people are going to notice that and see, that drive and passion that you have behind it, and really stick out from the command. And you're going to be learning and developing along the way. So it's a win-win situation in my eyes. Over.
Okay. So this is going to be our last wrap-up question. Lieutenant Commander Colton kind of hit on this statement earlier, the what is in it for me? I feel like there's nothing really wrong with the statement. Some people take offense to it, but it is the truth of where we're at. So with that being said, what do junior officers need from NNOA? Starting with Captain Myrick.
I think what junior officers need from NNOA is probably a better representation from the 04 and 05 perspective. I think we have a lot of senior leaders at the 06 level. We have the flag level, but that gap of when now we're 03, we're in the game and we're in it now. What's next? I think we kind of want a more recent perspective of those 04s and 05s. But I get it. They're in their grind time right now. They're being XOs, they're being commanders, and it's very hard to get them out to do other things. But I think that's what we need in terms of junior officers in order to keep developing.
Lieutenant Harris.
Yeah. I think what the junior officer needs from the NNOA is, looking back over my career, you can do a lot of different amazing things in your career. You can set records, you can pass examinations and inspections flawlessly. But if you don't have, a senior leader, even if it's a 05, 06, 04, someone that's been down a path before you, and able to focus that beam of energy that you have into the right direction, right? You could hit a lot of different things, but none of those things are going to be very impactful to your career. So sometimes being in an organization like the NNOA, you have a senior leader, someone who's in your designator, right, who has been serving the last 20, 25 years, and now is able to focus your efforts and your talents and say, hey, this is the field you should go into because this is what you are good at. And not only that, this is what the Navy and everyone else has as a prime designator that you should be going into, like contracts or something like that for supply officers. So just having somebody to focus your career track, you can be a great officer, but if you're going down the wrong path, I mean, it's a cap. It's a cap to where you're going to go in your career. But if you have a senior officer there that's able to focus you and get you going in the right direction and focus those talents, there's no limit for you. So I think that's what junior officers need from the NNOA is senior officers willing to be intrusive, get into their careers and say, hey, this is what I recommend you do because I'm in those meetings that you're not in, and this is where the community is heading towards, and this is what's going to be impactful down the years to come. I mean, I'm seeing 2 miles ahead of you. That GAO maybe only see 2 to 3 feet ahead of them. So that senior officer coming in and being intrusive and saying, hey, this is where we should be going, it would pay dividends for that junior officer in the long run. Over.
Thank you to these superb junior officers. Wow. You know, I have notes all over my paper here, and I just wish I was on active duty because I get all of you all to work for me. See, that's how I do it. I find the best officers who make me look good. And I always know what my boss wants and what my boss's boss wants. And I think someone said that. You've got to know what's going on in your chain of command, and you got to make the people happy. But thank you, thank you, thank you. I enjoyed this so much. A big thank you to Quan Hurst, our webmaster. Big thank you to Commander Nolan for facilitating this and making it fun. And to all the JOs on here, you all are such a great group of junior officers. I can't wait to see you all at the 50th in Annapolis. And please go to Facebook to our audience if you have comments or questions or topics you would like for us to cover with our next virtual brown bags. So, but we already have April 26th planned for you. We're going to be talking about the op tempo in our sea services and how that can cause anxiety for us and maybe even a little depression with COVID going on. So we'll have some expertise on here to talk to you about that. And we may even have a few officers who have experienced anxiety in their careers and how they dealt with it, because we know there is a proper way to deal with depression and anxiety when you're on active duty. So again, thank you, each of you. And my watchword this month to our junior officers, if you were told somewhere in your career that okay was good enough, okay, you're probably not going to get promoted. So okay is not good enough. So look, we will see you all in April. Take care and have a great rest of your day. Bye.
We are looking forward to the NNOA 50th Anniversary Symposium.
Save the date now, July 25th through 29th, 2022. Prepare to book early at the Westin Annapolis Hotel.
Book your hotel room, register early, sign up to speak, sign up to mentor, and be mentored. There is something for everyone.
Junior officers, be on the lookout for sponsorships through the Coast Guard, Navy, and the Marine Corps and our other sea services.
We are building tomorrow's leaders today. We are stronger together.